And good morning and welcome to the Old School. This is Ross Miller with Herr Dr. Stephen Bourgeois. Podcast is a podcast over educational issues, the American education system, the problems therein, and possible solutions. Insofar as we know the solutions to those problems, it could be that there are no solutions. It's just, we're just screwed, I guess. But nevertheless, we'll try nevertheless. Good morning, Herr Dr. Bourgeois.
Good morning, Herr Miller. We're screwed in so many ways. We can cut that, or probably not.
Well, how you doing? Happy 4th of July.
Thank you. Same to you. I'm very happy to celebrate the national holiday by cooking hot dogs tomorrow.
The words say something positive, but the tone suggests a level of sarcasm and disinterest that kind of belies the actual meaning of the words you used. What is your issue with the 4th of July?
I'm not.
Don't you love America?
Come on now. You know I do. It's Independence Day. I'm just saying that I'm not excited about any holiday, the 4th included, and so they're all relatively low in my priorities. But I enjoy cooking a hot dog. I enjoy turning to ESPN and watching the great Joey Chestnut eat dozens and dozens and even almost 100 hot dogs in a short time. That's always the highlight for me.
What is wrong with you?
Excuse me.
What is wrong with you?
I said.
Other than said that as long as you give the people circuses and bread, they're happy, they're content, they're malleable. Is that basically what you're admitting to here?
You're saying you've never watched Joey Chestnut?
I have never watched Joey Chestnut. I find the whole exercise of that ridiculous. Who would do that?
Well, it's Coney Island. What could be more American than Joey Chestnut on Coney Island?
You know, the idea of it in and of itself is offensive enough, but the fact that people like Joey Chestnut consider themselves athletes and consider their achievements important, both from a societal point of view, but also maybe from a philosophical point of view, I find that abhorrent.
Well, I think it is. I mean, they train for it, and it's a physical contest. If you consider chess athletics, a lot of people consider that a sport. What could be more athletic than gulping down? They don't eat the hot dogs on a bun like you and I do. They actually eat them separate. They'll eat about 5 or 6 hot dogs very quickly. Then they'll dump their bun into water, and it keeps the pace up. So it's really a sport.
Do you understand the ridiculousness of what you just detailed? On some level, I can appreciate that you might like it, but do you also not at the same time appreciate just how ridiculous it is?
No. I mean, do you really think that Joey Chestnut is going to take that hot dog and put some mustard on it and chow down that way? That would slow down the event, and he'd never get over 30 in that time period.
Well, first of all, at least he'd be a gentleman about it. Put some mustard on it, maybe some onions or what have you. But I mean, let's make it what it's supposed to be. You're boiling it down to elements that do not have any meaning separate from the other stuff. I mean, I just don't see how you take that seriously.
Well, I do think that we agree that there are some things that should not be on a hot dog, and ideally it's mustard and nothing else. Some onions would work. There's the Chicago dog, which is a different thing, but it's definitely tripped up. What are your thoughts on the hot dog?
It's an affront.
It's an affront?
I think that's the word you're looking for. It's an affront.
Oh, I love a Chicago dog. You're saying you won't eat one when in Chicago? We've been in Chicago together.
Yes. When you're in Chicago, you do as the Romans do. But here's the problem with Chicago in general, the whole city, is they have a collective inferiority complex. And so to counteract that, they have tricked up and they have made ridiculous things where the beauty lies in the simplicity. The beauty of a hot dog is the simplicity of a single strip of yellow mustard and some onions, maybe. But then to pile onto that cornichons or relish, the likes of which a color does not exist in nature. I mean, what do you even do with that? Tomato slices? It's just too much. I mean, the hot dog is meant to be simple. And so anybody who tries to trick it up is really just they're not getting it. And the pizza thing, I'm not going to. It's not a pizza. Their pizza is not. It's a casserole. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about the pizza, but
well, the thing is, you actually enjoy eating both of them. I've seen you eat the Chicago dog in 3 bites and wanted another one, and the pizza you eat as well. Just don't call it pizza.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, it's delicious. I'm just not going to call it a pizza.
That's fine. And the same thing with that dog. Just call it something else.
It's a sausage. Whatever you going to do with it. So.
Well, what else, Herr Miller? Is that our podcast for today? Are we going a little bit further?
Yeah, that's it. Good night, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you. Oh, no. Now, one of the things that was brought up tangentially last week or maybe the week before had to do with STEM education. And I think as products, the two of us being products of humanities-based curriculum, I think it behooves us to make the case for the humanities, because I think there is a very lopsided attention paid to our fine brothers and sisters in the math and science departments. Very fine people, nothing wrong with the disciplines in and of themselves. But I think we could all agree that there is there is an emphasis on STEM that in the process belittles humanities, and I think that's something that needs to be corrected.
So you're talking about at the middle school, high school level, and it's too early to put all your chips into STEM, and maybe the students need something else at that time.
Well, yeah, and like I said, we touched on this last week, but I think the beauty of the public school is a free avenue by which to explore your interest. And I don't care if a student picks math or science, but what bugs me is the seemingly dismissiveness that seems to be directed towards the arts, towards literature, towards history. I think that's problematic. And I think there needs to be a case made for, at the very least, an equal treatment of those subjects.
Well, you mentioned the arts in elementary schools, at least the ones that I visited. They refer to courses in the arts, music, painting, whatever it is, as specials. And
yes.
they usually put it in scare quotes because.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that it's something that's not tested, basically,
right.
And they do it to keep people happy, and it's really not that different than recess, in their minds, but they have to do it, or the students will be bogged down with too many math problems in a day.
Right.
So it's a break, is what it is.
And the problem is that attitude matriculates up through to the high schools, mm-hmm. where well, the story, but we have new listeners every day. I think there's one more today, but there used to be something called History Alive, which was a program designed to charge students' interest in history. But all it really did was it made it ridiculous. It attempted to bring a play element to the study of history that is better suited for maybe first grade. And the one lesson that sticks with me the most, that scars me the most, is a teacher having her students put the desk like in close proximity to one another in 2 rows, and then the kids like in between, like sitting down on the floor like they're in a trench in World War I. And then she's playing like bombshell explosions and gunfire, what have you.
This is in high school?
This is in high school. Oh. And you would think that a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid would have enough mental acuity to not need that particular form of instruction to imagine potentially how horrific being in a trench in World War I would be. Because I tell you what doesn't teach a kid how horrific being in a trench in World War I could be. That's being on the floor in between 2 rows of desks while your teacher plays bloody bomb burst and gunfire and what have you. Can you imagine that today?
So
Do
when did
you
this happen?
hear gunfire?
Because I'm sure the teacher would be fired today if they did something like that for
I don't know.
all kinds of reasons. When did this occur? Did this happen to you personally?
Well, no, I was privy to it because people were taking us around to different classrooms who were exemplifying lessons found within the History Alive curriculum, and so I was subjected to this in kind of a secondary sort of way, watching kids. You could see the looks on their faces; they felt stupid.
They felt
And
stupid. When
I
was this? Give me a year. When did this happen?
98, 97, 98.
Okay, so you're old, basically.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
okay. Now is his history alive now?
I hope not. I've not heard it. Like many things in education, programs come and go with great regularity. So, I mean, I think History Alive had its 15 minutes, and then people thought, "Man, this is stupid," or "Man, there's something else down the pike we can do." And so, like a lot of other things, it kind of goes by the wayside, indicative of how capricious the ideas are to begin with. But yeah, if you got a serious idea and it doesn't last 2 or 3 years, that's a pretty good sign your idea wasn't that serious, you know. So, um, but but yeah, this is a long time ago.
Well, let's explore the liberal arts a little bit here. Why do you think it is that, I mean, even teaching the liberal arts directly, is not doing what we would like? We're not creating, and we're having a course in English, whatever that means,
Right.
literature, language, English.
Yeah.
But what happens is we're creating a generation or many generations now of students and then adults who really despise reading. So how do even taking it on directly and forget about STEM for a minute? Why
Mm.
aren't we successful in the liberal arts?
Because it has no emphasis, it has no supporters beyond people like us. The kids experience no encouragement to read. You know, James Madison once said, let the gates of knowledge be set loose and the sluice of knowledge pour out, or what have you. But wasn't it Huxley that said that the more information that we get, we will eventually censor ourselves and we will basically eliminate stuff because there's just too much stuff out there, and it's hard to discriminate against what's worthy of knowing, what's not worthy of knowing. And so what you have is you have people that are, um, you have people that are basically functional illiterates. I mean, because they have been taught the mechanics of reading, but they've not been taught the love of reading. And the problem, and that's a huge problem. Who cares if by teaching the mechanics the kids do well on a standardized test if they don't learn to love the idea of reading? And and like I said, we have the rebel readers we talked about last week, but I think that they are right now, they are a pretty small minority. And I think that we do the act of reading both in a leisurely and also a content wise. We do it a disservice by how we treat it and how we emphasize it.
So the idea of the medium is the message. In this case, the methodology is the message, because in a course where they're studying a text, often they're trying to draw out really discrete points from that text, not approach it as art. First of all, it's how do you come up with the really basic things, about plot and character, but to take it to a deeper level, sitting in a class with 20, 30 students, it's really hard. And I'm not, complaining about English teachers. They have an impossible task,
Indeed.
and they have a
Indeed.
test hanging above their head. And
Mm.
so they're behaving in a way that, first of all, they're asked to teach in that way, but there's not a lot of solutions to that, because clearly for most students, there are the exceptions. They're not generating the love of reading or ideas, quite frankly, that they might have in something that we would envision.
Well, because the utility of reading is only emphasized within public schools for the grade that comes at the conclusion.
Right.
And even the notion of a grade, suggests that, listen, you only have to do this until you get to the grade, and then there's really no reason to do it outside of it. Everything we do de-emphasizes, and this is a broader topic, and I don't want to go down this path necessarily, but I mean, everything we do emphasizes a lack of necessity for the individual components, like reading, like learning, like enjoying things, like enjoying exploring things, and so, yes, I mean, I agree with you. I think the English teachers, like the rest of us, have an impossible task. How do you formulaically instill any kind of love in what you love as a teacher when everything that you love as a teacher has been condensed to a couple of questions on a standardized test? How do you do that? The STEM people will tell you that it's about a monetization. I mean, they won't say that directly, but that's basically what a lot of the emphasis on STEM is about, is a monetization of what the kid can achieve outside of school. There's nothing, there's, and that's one of the reasons why humanities have taken it in the shorts in the last 50 years, is because, strangely enough, you can't be rich as a history teacher or as a lover of history or as a lover of music or a lover of art. That's why you have these damn struggling artists markets and fairs and what have you, because everyone's struggling, and so there's nothing societally that trumpets humanities, certainly not at the level of mathematicians or scientists or doctors or whatever the case may be. But
well, I think we can make the case that there is value to learning how to think and to read and to write, to communicate, to speak, even in particularly in the business world. I have spoken to a lot of business leaders, and what's missing besides motivation for employees at all levels, being on time, being a self-starter, actually being engaged, is the inability to think, to be creative, to think outside of the box, even though I hate that term, but to communicate, to get along with people, to read and to present information. All of those are skills that you don't develop necessarily by doing math problems, but you do it through the liberal arts.
Mm-hmm. So you think about a liberal arts education in, say, 1790. 1790 in the United States, we had a handful of universities, mostly in the Northeast, the New England areas. You had a couple of schools like the University of North Carolina, I think William and Mary in the South. But for the most part, most of the universities were in the North. These are the Ivy League schools of today. So in a university liberal arts education back in those days, think about the kind of things that were discussed. And were, certainly science had a place, what have you, but language. This is your raison d'etre. I mean, have you ever had to have a conversation about the importance of language instruction? And how do you make that argument to someone who may not necessarily have an ear for it?
Language instruction has also been marginalized. I would group it in with those specials, unfortunately.
Sure.
And I was a language teacher, and what happens is you don't take students that far typically. So they get a couple of years of Spanish or German, whatever, and really didn't learn a lot, but just some memorized phrases. And the rule out there, the pithy saying, is that to learn a little bit of a language is really fun, but to learn a lot of it is a lot of work. And so they never get into that side. But I think language would be grouped with those specials to some extent, which is again unfortunate. But what
it's like the Father Guido Sarducci 5-minute university kind of thing.
Oh yeah, gosh.
You're only taught what you remember 5 years later. Guten Tag, wie geht's, and then that's it. You graduate, you're done.
Well, and as a German teacher, it comes up in a few, when I have conversations where I meet somebody and they say, "Oh yeah, I studied German," and I'll start speaking to them, and they'll just kind of shrink and turn red and say, "That's it. That's all I got." I was ready for at least a response to the next
Yeah.
probe. Well, think back. You were talking about European education a little bit, and
Right.
even to this day, there's a methodology, say at Oxford. I mean, weren't you at Oxford?
I did. Well, to say it in that way makes it sound like I was accepted and studied at Oxford, but no, during my master's degree, I was accepted to a scholarship where I got to study at Oxford, Exeter College, actually,
Okay.
For a summer. So,
okay.
Yes.
Well, let me run something by you, because I've been doing a little bit of reading on, it's called the Oxford tutorial system. Are you familiar with it?
No. Did you do show prep?
You mentioned that we had a little bit of discussion of liberal arts, and I thought, you and I have talked about everything already, so why not bring something you haven't heard of before?
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so it's just a list.
Okay.
Imagine this here, Miller. A teacher and between 1 to 3 students. So that's your group. It's a weekly meeting, maybe every 2 weeks, but ideally weekly. The students are assigned a reading, and they produce a short essay, short, concise, to the point.
Okay.
When they get to that group meeting, the students all read their essays out loud. That's part of the methodology, really like the protocol method in seminars at universities. They do that also.
Right.
The rest of the meeting is a open discussion, and ideally it's student to student. The tutor or the teacher isn't involved, but really you want to hear the students talk. So it's a method that just continues. But here's the part that you'll like. By definition or by rule, it's never graded. None of this seminar has any grade attached, which has some benefits, certainly. Ideally, they're reading, the great books, but not redacted, not shortened versions of it, but the whole thing, if possible. And that's it. That's as far as it goes. But it's an idealized conversation, reading, writing. It's a discipline. You think about, can this be implemented in schools? Yeah, if people want to, it could actually be a whole curriculum, quite frankly. But I read about it and I thought, well, that's pretty idealized, but it hits on a lot of points that might be worth pursuing.
Well, I was thinking about it. Of course, it would never fly in the day-to-day rigmarole that makes up the high school classroom. But how cool would it be if a teacher offered their students something like this outside of the regular framework of the school day,
right?
But maybe before school or after school? Because is there anything in there that demeans or discards the importance of learning, discards the importance of thinking? There is nothing in there. And we talked about it before about how much enters into the American classroom that either intentionally or not kind of dismisses the importance of learning.
Right.
And now here we have something in this pure, unadulterated form that can only be described as a kind of the epitome of what a true learning experience might be. And it almost makes me want to try it this year, and maybe we can come back and revisit this, see if this was something that would be possible to try. Again, it would have to be something that exists outside the school day. And by definition, it probably will only be appealing to a handful of students. But then again, that would be the appropriate size that you're dealing with there. But to be able to take something and say, let's do this, let's really accomplish something here. Let's really try to enjoy the notion of learning something or reading something and discussing it for its own sake.
Well, I agree, and I think it's something that could be executed. I've done something on a different scale. I mentioned a philosophy club where students would read, meet in a coffee shop or something, and discuss. But quite frankly, the discussion included, myself, with about 40 to 50% of the talking, and then maybe two or three outgoing students. But the beauty of having, a small, maybe two or three, I think three feels about right, is that the students would talk. And that's the key. And having no grade attached, that will get people scratching their head. And for a while, the students say, wait a minute, I should be spending this time preparing for my AP biology test. I'm reading, Aristotle with Mr. Miller. But we would say that by reading Aristotle with Mr. Miller, you'll probably do better on that biology test also, because you're learning to read and think and write. So there are a lot of benefits. But again, if it's not assessed, that's the battle. Can something like that be pulled off? I think it can. I think it's more conducive to a private school without that state test. But why not?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I think you talk about the idea that learning Aristotle would help a kid do better on a biology test. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the kid is not thinking in a kind of a uniform sort of way. One of the arguments that I've made about history, and one of the arguments I've made about traveling, as you and I have both been, both together and separately, we have led many groups of students overseas. Kipling said, "What do they know of England who only England knows?" I mean, the essence of studying history, the essence of traveling, is a different way of thinking. And it's a different way of thinking that's organic and ergo applicable. And it is something that can see immediate effects of the benefits of it, but even just the joy of doing it. I had a student, I was teaching a on-level or regular world history class. I had a student that one time asked me, why are we learning about fill in the blank people? And my first reaction was, who are you to say that someone's not worth learning about? But the second thing is that it's the idea that through language, through travel, through history, the very act of these endeavors teaches a student to think differently, to assess differently, to expose themselves to different ways of seeing problems, of seeing solutions, of seeing life, I think the very essence of the humanities is an exercise in being able to think in a multifaceted sort of way.
Well, if you jump to universities in Europe, there's a foundational knowledge that's really expected. And so those students tend to specialize right out of the gate. They're going to study law or whatever their field is. Right. And so, in American universities, we have all these survey courses that are requirements, take English 1, English 2, history, whatever it is. But they've covered that to some extent. They've really and I think that's why we enjoy talking to German high school students, because they're much more literate. But that foundation, has to help in so many ways. But
it makes them not just literate; it makes them more interesting.
That's right. Yeah, which is even more important. We want to have a lunch or dinner with one of these students. We want them to be able to hold court and bore us to death.
Right.
But I was wondering when we were talking about reading specifically and how we just test the reading love out of students. Not all at once, but year after year, and eventually nobody wants to read anything, particularly great literature. They've been turned off. But how about this for a study? A study on the effectiveness of high school English teachers. And my wife will love this. Probably not. What if you took one of there are a couple books, probably you could list even more, that all students carry around, which I find really depressing. They're all carrying around The Lord of the Flies or A Tale of Two Cities. Okay, great. And there are a few others that they just have to read, and students really don't get excited about, but they do it. What would happen if the English teacher was given The Lord of Flies? Teach it for 3 chapters. Okay.
Okay.
So you do your best to get them excited 3 chapters.
Mhm.
And that's it. Then you move on maybe to Tale of Two Cities or whatever else you're supposed to read. Get to the end of the school year, because this was a fall study. Um, and then you assess the students, just an anonymous test. Did you finish The Lord of the Flies? Did you actually take that book and read it to its end because you were captured by it? Yes or no?
Okay.
And what kind of, just you can hypothesize what kind of completion rate, would we expect from the students who are in 10th grade at your school?
If the category "Not a Chance in Hell" was on the list of options, that would probably be the one most checked.
So why do you think that is?
I just think that the idea of doing your best for 3 chapters to try to understand something. I mean, it's like, well, you're asking the student to I don't know. It's like you're leading them, but you're not really providing any other additional kind of motivation, or you're not instilling any kind of additional love for it. You're just taking it on the. It's like reading Cliff Notes. You might as well just read the Cliff Notes of each one of those books and say, which one of y'all did that. I don't know. I mean, maybe.
You're sounding like a school administrator now, and you disappoint me. But
Yeah.
A student who reads the exposition of a novel, should be caught by the novel itself and want to know what happens to these kids on the island.
Right.
They're being mean to each other. How's it going to all end? They
Right.
should just have to finish it.
Right.
And maybe the teacher has this little speech at the end saying, "We're going to stop here. I hope you are interested, and I encourage you to read it, but there's, we're not going to be tested on it anymore, and just stop talking and see what happens." But I would say
it'd be kind of cool to see how that would unfold.
Well, I plan to do the study. Actually, I just thought of it, but because it could be set up at, in a control group situation. There are ways to make it even more interesting, because when you do a study like that, you need a couple of things that you're comparing, ideally. But
I
maybe
wonder if it would be of the same degree as the person who would choose to be part of an Oxford tutorial the session with Mr. Miller, because I think, because you were talking about the fact that the reality of school would ultimately probably impede a majority of the folks from following up on some of the stuff. And so I think it runs the same risk. Do you agree or no?
What did you call those kids who always have a book? I like the name. What is it?
The rebel readers.
The rebel readers would be signing up.
Yes.
For our tutorial class, definitely.
Yes.
But maybe, some of the athletes and the people who are grade mongers have actually, they're more complicated than we give them credit. I think that's actually true. I mean, I have, high school age and older myself. I would suggest that at that age, particularly, during adolescence and as they grow through high school, students at that level are really dying to have conversations.
Yes.
Heavy conversations about life and death and big questions. They're ripe for it.
I think they're not just ripe for it, but I think they also understand intuitively that their education experience is lacking. They understand the shortcomings of it. Now, they may buy into it because it is the reality that's pushed upon them by their parents or by friends or by, teachers or whatever the case may be. But every time this has come up in conversation in my class, it is something that the students seem to have an intuitive sense of.
Yeah.
They may be good at the rigmarole, they may be good at the system, but they don't like it. And matter of fact, it's probably more likely that they don't like school because of what they recognize as the shortcomings of the system. And so, maybe I think you're spot on. I think there is a hunger there. The question is there an availability for it, where the kid feels like they can do it, where they could make the time to do it.
It doesn't have to be a lot of time. And we're talking about doing reading, a really short writing sample that they read out loud, have a conversation. but the benefits would have to outweigh it. And, quite often, like in the movie, The Color of Money, the line is that the money's throwing you off your game.
Yeah.
So the idea of a grade is throwing them off their game. They're not going to have the same conversation with that teacher who's assessing them as they would with somebody who's, tasked to push them intellectually, because the success of that tutoring system is really, it rests with the tutor. Are they just going to be real careful and acknowledge, oh, that was a good statement? Or are they going to, take them apart, kind of like you do in history class, where you're actually listening carefully and you're challenging them with additional questions,
Right.
and telling them when they're off base, and making them kind of confront you intellectually.
Right. Well, yeah, one of the first things we talk about in class when I start the school year is that those people who say there's no such thing as a dumb question are idiots. There's plenty of dumb questions and there's dumb statements. But if there's comfort to be taken, is the fact that we all are guilty of it from time to time. So just accept it, deal with it, move on, and do better the next time. And so there's no shame in the failure. And that's one of the other things I think that has to be taught is, I think we speak so much about the shame of failure. We encourage kids to take a route where failure is not possible, so they're not taking risk. They're not taking chances. And this goes beyond the topic of the day, but I think that one of the things that can be learned from history, that can be learned from the humanities, is the idea that failure is not shameful, that failure is actually a part of the process, and it's the same thing with language acquisition. You and I both speak other languages, and it has been said of me that one of my strengths as far as learning a language is my willingness to make a fool out of myself.
That's true. You're really good at
that. But just to put yourself in a situation where you're likely going to fall on your face, but yet there's still something that can be learned from that exercise. It's the beauty of the humanities, I think.
Definitely. And those are always the best language students, the ones who really don't care, but they'll play with the language and look silly, but they're actually learning through looking silly. And maybe that's the essence of the curriculum. We're so worried about discomfort in the classroom.
Yes.
Teachers are paralyzed, when there's an awkward moment. And I guess an experienced teacher who's really good can turn that around. But that fear, there's fear of so many things. There's a classroom is full of fear, by everybody, and they get through it by having a real tight syllabus and tight assessments and assignments and grades, and this allows people to, there's no awkwardness about that. But what we're proposing, it would be difficult questions and hard conversation, not just affirming everything the kid says.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about the idea of failure and what students' relationship with failure is. And I'm reminded of the fact that often, because here we are at the beginning of July, which is when AP scores come out. They'll probably come out in the next few days or so. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had kids apologize to me for failing a test. I said, you might as well apologize for eating. I mean, everyone fails something. I mean, the failure does not define you. This is the other thing. They think in their head that, in my mind, their failure of the AP exam is shaping what I think of them. And to me, it's symptomatic of kind of our general relationship with failure and how we look at it. But I tell students all the time, your failure does not define you. What you do with that failure defines you. I mean, but the idea of failing, it's so human. It's almost trite to talk about it. I mean, I don't understand why you would focus on it. But we're drumbeating our kids on this mentality that I don't think it's helpful. And I think it's part of it is because of the motivation behind it, i.e. STEM. and I think that that's where humanities can save us a little bit. I mean, I do not advocate an emphasis on humanities. I suggest that all of us share an equal role in the sphere of education. You know, my brothers and sisters in science and math, and but as well as my compadres in English and language arts and foreign languages and music and what have you. I think we all have an equal share in this role that we play. I wish there was a different kind of way that we looked at it.
Well, we probably need to address STEM, and we kind of got into STEM at the very beginning, then shifted.
Right.
And it was a much more pleasant conversation because we would have been attacking every one of those four letters, and now we've laid a foundation why important they may be. You can't really do any of that if you can't read and write and think,
right,
talk. So there it is. We've made another. So we have like two shows we've already proposed. One is to talk to elementary teachers, which we'll never do. I don't think you're going to be able to collect people enough who like you enough to get on here. And then the other is for us to bash STEM, which we do that every day anyway. So that'll be easy.
But I think it's important. I think people are too quick to lay the label of Luddite or on us, and to me they're not listening, because to me it's not a question of each one of those letters in and of themselves. It is the emphasis that's placed on it. It is what is expected from it, and how they view everything else in the ether. That's the problem. If someone is just geeked up about math, God bless them, go for it. I mean, do whatever it is that you want to do, but don't tackle it as if nothing else matters, because I think that you're shortchanging yourself greatly when you do that.
I think of all classes that require some type of extrinsic motivation, namely grades and tests, math would be the one that stands out. Take that away. Students are competing in math to get grades, but can you get actual interest in math? If so, that's a great teacher.
Yes.
To independently want to do more math than is assigned. That's kind of the example, like reading Lord of the Flies to the end. I'm going to run some more equations and find out what the function is that fits this. So I think we move into that at some point. But take on each of those letters in separate broadcasts, because I would argue that the S in STEM is neglected. We talk a lot about the T,
right? Yeah, the T is subversive. I mean, I think the T is probably the bane of our existence. But surely there's value. There's even value in the technology. Maybe not, but there has to be a reevaluation of how we look at things, how we assess things, how we value things, and STEM undermines that. And so, and there needs to be, there needs to be a change in how we do things in this regard. So, maybe we'll just have like an episode just on the virtues of history, or the virtues of German, or whatever the case may be. Wouldn't that be fun to do?
It's all fun. I'd also like to see you try to make an argument for STEM, as an intellectual exercise. Hear Miller, advocating for STEM. That would be fun.
It's like the rabbis of old. If you can't come up with at least 100 ways why God doesn't exist, then maybe you wouldn't make a good rabbi. So it's kind of that kind of idea. It's good to have that kind of contrarian mindset sometimes.
You're definitely contrarian here, Miller. There's nothing else.
Well, are you off to grill hot dogs?
That's in my future tomorrow. I might clean the grill today. Actually, who am I kidding? I never clean the grill.
I know. Just adds to the flavor. So
that's right. But yes, I'll be making hot dogs tomorrow and watching the great Joey Chestnut.
Chicago dogs?
No. I'm not going to do that. I don't think I have the tomatoes or those sports peppers or that blue relish. Just
not even blue. It's like aquamarine. It's like algae. I mean, like bioluminescent algae is what that crap looks like on a hot dog. So,
well, it's exciting stuff though, because you don't eat it on any other food but the Chicago dog.
But we love the people of Chicago. It's a fine city.
Yeah, I like being up there. It's good stuff.
Yes. They have some very strange ideas, but otherwise very fine people.
I was the butt in there.
All right, Herr Dr. Bourgeois, have a great 4th of July, and we will see you next week.
Next week it is. Thank you, Herr Miller. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.